O Vigneswaya Namaha. Namaste friends. I am Gurti Vishwaswara Rao and I already introduced myself in my earlier videos, which you may remember. The videos are for the chapters in my book with the title Bhagavad Gita, My A Commoner's Viewpoint, which I got it printed by Notion Press Chennai and which is also available on Amazon and Flipkart. This particular video is for the 8th chapter in my book and corresponds to the same 8th chapter Akshara Parabrahma Yoga in Bhagavad Gita. As in the book, in each video I am trying to give a brief account or a gist of Bhagavan's message contained in that particular chapter, followed by my own viewpoint expressed again in brief. My viewpoint is as understood by me, a commoner amongst multitude of commoners in this world. Bhagavan started this chapter Akshara Parabrahma Yoga giving clarifications to Arjuna's queries. The queries are contained in this first sloka. Kim tad brahma, kim adhyatmam, kim karma purushottama, adhibhutam ch kim proktam, adhidevam kim uchyate. In this sloka, the first query of Arjuna is, what is Brahma? Bhagavan clarifies that Brahma means it is the indestructible and eternal Almighty. Arjuna's second query is, what is Adhyatma? Bhagavan says, Adhyatma means Jivatma, that is the inner world of oneself, that is the self wherein Paramatma's incarnation dwells. Arjuna's third query is, what is karma? Karma is the activity associated with the grand act of Paramatma's creation and preservation of all beings in this universe till the final resolution, Bhagavan says. In this first sloka, the other queries of Arjuna are about Adhibhuta, Adhideva and Adhyajna. Bhagavan replies, Adhibhuta is the whole external world filled with Panchabhutas and all perishable and manifested beings, animate or inanimate. About Adhideva, Bhagavan says, Adhideva is the underlying Lord, the controller and the presiding Paramatma over all deities. About Adhyajna, Bhagavan gives the answer, Adhyajna is Paramatma himself, who is the indweller in all beings and is the object of worship by all. Arjuna's last and specific query is significant. He wishes to know how a devotee with his mind fixed on Paramatma has to look for him at the time of leaving this mortal world. In reply, Bhagavan declares in this sloka, Antakalecha mameva, smaran muktva kalevaram, ya prayat samad bhavam, yati nastastra sansayah. He declares that in this sloka, a human being who always immerses himself in Paramatma's thoughts and who breathes his last with Paramatma only in his mind certainly reaches his eternal abode. Bhagavan also conveys that whatever thoughts a person engages himself at his final moments, he is bound to attain the same in his next life. In this context, Bhagavan exhorts Arjuna to perpetually engage himself in Paramatma's worship while doing his duty of fighting his enemy, which finally leads him to Paramatma. Bhagavan reiterates in this following sloka, Abhyasa yoga yuktena, chatasa nani gamina, paramam purusham divyam, yati parthan chantayan. With the meaning, whoever constantly worships Paramatma without a wavering mind and whoever meditates on him without any other distractions, he eventually reaches Paramatma's refuge. That is, the worshipper reaches his sublime abode at the end of one's life in this mortal world. Bhagavan's further clarification is contained in the following two slokas. The first sloka is Sarvadvarani Sanyamya Manohodi Niruddhacha Murdhya Dhayatma Pranam Asito Yoga Dharanam. The second sloka is Omiche Kaksharam Brahma Vyaharan Ma Manusparan Ya Prayaja Jajan Deham Sayaja Paramangatim. Bhagavan clarifies in these two slokas that a person who, while leaving his body, exercises control over all his indriyas and senses, and with his mind thus controlled, who fully devotes on Omkara Swarupa, that is the Paramatma, such a person attains his bliss. Omkara Swarupa means the supreme manifestation of the God Almighty in the form of cosmic vibratory sound emanating from the word Om, the Pranava. Bhagavan continues to say that whoever attains his protection is a blessed soul and he is free from the tribulations of further births in this world. That is, he gets Janmarahichyam, a state of no birth and rebirth for the blessed soul. Bhagavan further says, beyond the knowledge of creation, dissolution, and repeated recreations, there is his supreme abode, which is the ultimate goal for all beings, and which once attained, there is no return to the mortal world. Reaffirming this message, Bhagavan says in this sloka, Purushasya Parapartha Bhaktya Labhyas Swananya Yasyantasthani Bhutani Yana Swanamadan Tatam. The essential meaning in this sloka is the ultimate goal, that is supreme abode, is attainable only by Ananya Bhakti, that is undivided devotion or unflinching faith in Paramatma. Here Bhagavan points out two ways or two paths of departing this world for the living beings. One is Devayan Marga, the other is Pitryan Marga. The blessed souls who are the most devoted to Paramatma take the route of Devayan Marga after their death and are led to his abode to have no rebirth. Such living beings engage in sakam karmas, that is actions replete with or aimed at desires, take the path of Pitryan Marga and reach at the end of their lives such rightful places that they deserve, but return to this mortal world again and thus may get into many cycles of births and rebirths. Bhagavan explains about a true yogi in this sloka. Vedeshu yajneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yatpunya phalam pradishtam atyeti tassarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upayati chadyam. Bhagavan says in this sloka, a true yogi, after having the knowledge on the two paths, he is no longer deluded, that is, he is not at all confused on what he wishes to have. Such yogis who realize the truth, they no longer seek for the rewards that they may be attainable by study of Vedas and by performing austerities or by performing sacrifices prescribed in scriptures. They only aspire to achieve Paramatma's supreme abode. Here is my viewpoint on Bhagavan's message we just heard in this chapter. This chapter, friends, may be considered as the pivotal chapter. In this chapter, Bhagavan conveys that he is the Akshar Brahma and he is Kalatita, that is, he is beyond the time scale and he is ever present. Akshara means indestructible and permanent. Akshar Brahma means Supreme Brahman. In fact, before we go forward, we must remember Bhagavan's message given at the end of the last chapter, Jnana Vijnana Yoga, to the following sloka. What is that sloka? Sadhi bhutadi daivam mam, sadhi yajnam chi ye vidhu, priyana kale pichimam, te vidyur yukta chasasha. The essential meaning of this sloka we already had in the last video of Jnana Vijnana Yoga. What is that main essence of Bhagavan's message? He said in that sloka, whoever knows him with firm conviction as Adhibhotam, Adhidaivam and Adhiyajnam, even at his final moments of this mortal life, finally reaches him. This sloka is indeed, my friends, the precursor or pioneer. That means it starts the present chapter, Akshar Parabrahma Yoga. Because this chapter starts with Arjuna appealing to Bhagavan Sri Krishna to enlighten him on these terms, Adhibhotam, Adhidaivam and Adhiyajnam. In fact, we are also eager to know about these amazing aspects of Paramatma. Incidentally, the meaning of these terms we just had in Bhagavan's message in the beginning of this video. On the whole, what we really need to grasp from the meaning of these terms and from Bhagavan's answers to Arjuna is that Paramatma is the indweller in all jivas, in all beings. He is all pervasive, he is all sustaining, and he is Adhiyajna, that is, he is the object of worship by all. More significantly, we also need to concentrate on the query of Arjuna in the first sloka of this chapter itself. That is, he wished to know from Bhagavan Sri Krishna about a person who surrenders to him throughout his life and how such a person has to know Paramatma at the time of his departure from this mortal world. To this query, the profound message from Bhagavan is contained in this sloka. Anta kalecha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yat prayati sarmadbhavam yati nasastra jansaya. Along with this sloka, we also have Bhagavan's important message in the following sloka also. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajatyante kalevaram tam tame vaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha. What is this essential meaning in these two slokas? Out of these two slokas, we need to look at the message in the second sloka first. Bhagavan has said in the second sloka, whatever object one remembers while leaving this mortal body, he attains that alone because he was constantly thinking of that object at those final moments. Now, with this message in mind, let us understand the message in the first sloka. It is highly illuminating, and let us recite here the sloka again. Antakalechi mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaprayati sarmadbhavam yati nastasya sansayaha. With the meaning, whosoever at these final moments, that is, whoever while leaving this mortal body remembers Paramatma alone, he attains him, and there is no doubt about this. This is what Bhagavan said. So, whatever thoughts one attains at the final moments of this mortal life, that he will attain. That is why one attains Paramatma only if he has his thoughts only in his last moments. That is the reason why Bhagavan's advice in the following sloka is highly significant. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chatasa nani gamina paramam purusham divyam yati parthan chantayan. He is urging us to constantly practice thinking of him even while going through our daily duties and responsibilities. That is, we have to recognize the need to immerse ourselves in his thoughts now itself while leading this mortal life and following the path of a true Karma Yogi. Since Bhagavan knows our weaknesses as mortals, he continues to advise in the following two slokas also. The first sloka is Sarvadvarani Sanyamya Manohardi Nirudhyacha Murdhya Dhayatma Pranam Asito Yogadharanam. The second sloka is Umitye Kashram Brahma Vyaharan Ma Manusparam Yaprayati Tajan Deham Sayati Paramangatim. In these two slokas, Bhagavan advising us to cultivate the habit of remembering him as Onkara Swarupa and remembering him by practice of jhana and by developing bhakti, that is devotion towards him. He assures such worshippers in the following sloka. Mamu pecha punarjanma dukkale masaswatam napunuvanti mahatmanaha samasiddhim paramangataha. His assurance is such blessed souls will get janma rahityam, that is, they will get rid of further rebirth in this mundane world and thus get relieved of all sufferings and tribulations of a mortal life. This message from Bhagavan on one hand fills our minds, especially fills commoners like ours, with a relief in knowing the device, that is, knowing the way to achieve Paramatma's realization. On the other hand, keeping in mind Paramatma only at those final moments of life may not be an easy task. As you can easily understand, is it an easy task? Is it possible to keep him only in our thoughts at those final moments? The difficulty and the less probability of having such a sound mind at those final moments is best described by many great learned personalities. Let us hear to some of them. Adi Shankaracharya, in one of his brilliant compositions, Subramanya Bhujangam, a rare devotional composition written in Sanskrit by him, he salutes Sri Subramanya, the God incarnate, and says in one sloka, which reads as Prasantendriye nasta sanye vicheshthe kafodgari vaktre bhayotkampi gatre prayanun mukhe mayyanadhe tadanim trutam me dayalo bhavagre guhatvam. Adi Shankaracharya says in this sloka, during my old age, when my senses become calm, when I lose consciousness and lie motionless, when my face will emit phlegm and my whole body will tremble with fear, when I will lie waiting for death, O my Lord, during that time, for me, this helpless creature, come to me quickly and be before me, O Subramanya, the compassionate Lord. What a soul-touching salutation it is, and how much true that picture at those final moments. Raja Kulasekhara, a saintly king of 9th century and one of the great Alvar saints of India, in his composition Mukundamala Stotram in Sanskrit, also expresses his fear about those final moments in one of his poems. The poem reads as Krishna Tvadiya Padapankaja Panjarantam Adyeva me visatu manasa rajaham saha prana prayana samaye kafavata pittaihi kantavarodhana vidhau smaranam kutaste. With the meaning, at the time of my departure from this earth, I may be totally helpless and will be overcome by blockage of throat from the phlegm, bile and irregular respiration. I may not be able to think of you under those circumstances. Therefore, let me enter the safe haven or shelter of the lotus feet of yours now itself. That is the realization one should have, as stated by Raja Kulashekara in this poem, and one should cultivate thinking of Paramatma constantly. Dhurjati is a 15th century poet and a great devotee of Lord Shiva, and he is the author of Kalahastiswara Satakam, written in Telugu language. In one of his poems of this composition, the poet Dhurjati more sorrowfully says, Dantambul Padanappude, Tanuvunan Darudiyunnappude, Kanta Sanghamu Royanappude, Jara Krantambu Kanappude, Vintal Mena Jarimpanapude, Kurul Velvelaganapude, Chintimpanvale, Ni Padambujamulan, Sri Kalahastiswara. With deep earnestness, the poet Dhurjati prays in this poem, O Bhagavan, let me not think that old age is a long way away, so that I can remember you later. Before I lose my teeth, and before damsels reject me in disgust, and before my hair becomes very white, I must think of you always, so as to reach you finally. Here, we should take note of the words, I must think of you always. This is the truth one should be aware of. Bhadrachal Ramdasu of 17th century in Andhra region, or Bhakta Ramdasu, as he was more fondly remembered, is a saintly poet and is popularly known for his devotional songs written in Telugu language on Sri Rama. In one of his compositions by name Dasarathi Satakam, Bhakta Ramdasu wrote the following poem in a very heartrending way. Muppuna Galakinkarulu Mungita Vachina Vela Rogamul Gopparamainacho Gafamu Kuttuka Nindina Vela Bandhaval Gapina Vela Ni Smarana Galguno Galgado Nati Kipude Tapakache Tumi Bhajana Dasarathi Karuna Payonidhi. With the meaning, when the messengers of the god of death are before me, and the diseases are suffocating me with phlegm, and the near and dear relatives crowding me around, I am in doubt if I can have you in my mind at that moment. Therefore, O Paramatma, I must pray now itself. Thus we find in all these prayers of these great personalities the grand words, now itself we need to pray. That now itself, how much weighty, that is how much important these words are. Whatever condition described in all these compositions, that will be the condition for most of the common mortals like us also, except maybe for a few blessed souls. This all points out to the fact that one needs to be circumspect or prudent, that is, to be cautious now itself and at all stages of life in devoting on Paramatma before that imminent and final moment strikes us. So, let us reckon that this is the moment of absolute truth. We should turn our attention from the mundane world towards its Creator. We need to constantly and fondly remember and chant Him with single-minded devotion. We need to do actions with an underlying current of Manasika Puja, that is, with worship within the mind, by uttering the Omkara, the cosmic word Om, consciously, even while being immersed in our works. We need to do actions remembering what Bhagavan has advised in this sloka. Ananachata satatam yomam smarta nichasaha tasaham sulabha partha nichayuktasya yoginiha. With the meaning, to a yogi who constantly and every day remembers Paramatma without getting distracted and not thinking of anything else, Paramatma is easily attainable. We can understand here this definitely requires a state of mind well cultivated all along one's life and so nurtured so as to have enough control over his mind, senses and indriyas and control over the ensuing actions so that we reach a state of sankalpa rahityam, that is, a state devoid of thoughts, implying a state of being free from desires. With this ends my viewpoint on the message we received in this chapter. Friends, you might have noticed that many slokas of this chapter are repeated in both Bhagavan's message and my viewpoint. This is because of their extraordinary importance Also, the message in each of these slokas is to be remembered always, precisely, and with utmost clarity. Now, friends, I wish to say about a Vishesh Sukti, or a special word, which is a connected and an illuminating thought from a Upanishad or a writing by an eminent personality. Also, it is connected with the message given by Bhagavan Sri Krishna in this chapter. The Vishesh Sukti, which I wish to mention here, is about Onkara, or the cosmic word Om. Here, immediately, must come to our minds the following slokas in the last chapter Jnana Vijnana Yoga and in the present chapter Akshara Parabrahma Yoga. What are those slokas? In the chapter 7, Jnana Vijnana Yoga, Bhagavan has said, Rasoham apsu kaunteya, Prabhasmi sasa suryoho, Pranaha sarva vedeshu shabda, Khe paurusham nushu. In this sloka, Bhagavan has said, the Supreme Atman symbolizes the letter Om in Onkara, which is the epitome of all mantras, hymns in Vedas, and it is usually referred to as Pranava, which means the cosmic sound Om. In the present chapter, Akshara Parabrahma Yoga, Bhagavan has said, Omiche Kashram Brahma, Vyaharan Ma Manuswaram, Yaprayati Tajan Deham, Sayati Paramangatim. In this particular sloka, Bhagavan has advised us to cultivate the habit of reciting Om, and thus whoever remembers Paramatma as Omkara Swarupa while leaving this mortal body, he attains the supreme goal of self-realization and, in other words, union with Supreme Self. As we know, sage Patanjali in his Yoga Sutra also expressed through very crisp and short slokas or sutras written in Sanskrit all what we need to know about the practice of yoga on the path to self-realization. Specifically, in the following sutra in chapter 1 Samadhipada, sage Patanjali says, Tajjapas Tathartha Bhavanam, with the meaning, repetition of Om and meditating on its meaning is the way for attaining steadiness of mind, and in the sequel to be on the right path of dhyana or meditation. The sage Patanjali implies in that sloka that by repetition and thinking of Om, the introspective power will be manifested more and more. All the mental and physical obstacles will begin to vanish. Repetition of Om and self-surrender to the Lord will strengthen the mind and bring fresh energy. Chanting Omkara as a means of meditation for self-realization is proposed by Mundaka Upanishad, which you remember I happened to mention in my earlier video of 7th chapter Jnana Vijnana Yoga. Attaining the supreme goal of self-realization by reciting Om or the Pranava is best explained by Mandukya Upanishad also. Mandukya Upanishad, like Mundaka Upanishad, is also associated with Atharva Veda. Mandukya Upanishad is a unique one, and as we find, it is the most terse and short one. Most astonishingly, within a short range of only 12 slokas or 12 verses, Mandukya Upanishad speaks of the human perception or awareness in entirety, starting with the awakened state or wakeful state of this visible world and ending in the supreme absolute state of superconsciousness. About Mandukya Upanishad, it is given to understand that if one is able to fully grasp what is offered in this Upanishad, one needs to know no more. Let us now make an attempt to understand the teachings in this Upanishad by first reciting a few of the 12 verses and knowing their meaning. After that, we try to make a closer understanding of the teachings. In the following starting verse, the Upanishad says, Omiche Dadashtarimedam Sarvam Tasyopa Vyakhyanam Bhutam Bhavat Bhavishadit Sarvam Onkari Eva Echanyat Trikalaatitam Tadapyokari Eva. Meaning, the verse says, this whole universe is all Omkaram. All what was in the past, what is now, and what will be in future is the only Omkar Om. And what is beyond all time is also only the Omkaram. In the word Omiche Darsharam, in the verse, Om is described as Akshara, and Akshara means imperishable. In another important sloka, that is 8th verse, the Upanishad says, Soyam Atma Adhyaksharam, Omkarodhimatram Pada, Matrasya Pada, Akara Ukaro Makara Iti. With the significant meaning, the word Om describes Atman in a verbal or in sound form, In the form of syllables, Om contains the letters A, U and M, that is Akara, Ukara and Makara. These syllables represent the feet of Atman, that is the three stages of the Supreme Atman. This is what the Upanishad says in this verse. While trying to understand the implications of this important verse, we must remember that every idea that we have in our minds has a counterpart in a word. Thus, the word and the thought are inseparable. The external part of the thought is what we call word, and the internal part of the word is what we call a thought. Let's recite the last and the 12th verse in the Upanishad. It says, Amatrasya chaturtho vyavaharya prapanchopasamhatsivo dvaita yavam onkara atmaiva samvisatyatmanatmanam yayavam veda. With the meaning, the transcendental state of supreme bliss is the fourth aspect of Atman. And Om is verily, that is, in fact, Om is the Atman. And one who knows this truth by deep meditation merges his self in the self, that is, attains the realization of Paramatma. We grasped the literal meaning of these few verses, but we are eager to know the meaning more substantively and more fundamentally. Let us make an effort toward this. Firstly, we need to understand when we recite Om in a proper way, we enter into a meditative mode. We are not merely reciting a sound or a word. We are generating a vibration around us and within us, a vibration which has a sympathy with the cosmic vibration. Next, as we know, the word Om is constituted of the three letters A, U, M, that is Akara, Ukara and Makara. But Om also has a fourth state which transcends, that is, goes beyond these distinctions, beyond these three divisions of Akara, Ukara and Makara. The fourth nature of Om is called Amatra, that is the Chaturtha Bhava, that is the fourth aspect, that is the last and the soundless form of Om is Amatra. Matra means measurable and Amatra means immeasurable. So, the soundless form of Om is immeasurable like Supreme Atman. Next we find Mandukya Upanishad identifies the four stages of Om with the four aspects of Atman. What are these four aspects of Atman? These four stages of Atman are Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti and Turiya. Jagrat means our waking or the wakeful state. The second is Swapna, that is our dreaming state. The third is the Sushupti, that is deep sleeping state. And the last fourth one is Turiya, meaning the sublime and the transcendent spiritual state. Let us understand how Mandukya Upanishad equated these four states with the four stages of Pranava or Omkara. For we jivas, for we mortals, for we individuals, for we mere humans, the first state, Jagrat, that is the wakeful state, seems to be all real for us because of moha or delusion. And to us, life means just this wakeful state only, right? For instance, we recognize what happens in a dreaming state is unreal, and we assume that what we all visibly see in the wakeful state is real. But is it true? We notice many a time that what we see outward is not true, and by means of some knowledge, we will recognize this truth and our fault. Elevating ourselves to a higher level of knowledge or enlightenment, we will be knowing further that the objects in the wakeful state are equally unreal. The first letter Akara in Om is the beginning of all letters. It is the first syllable in the series of letters in the alphabet, and in this Akara, all other word formations are said to be contained. This is similar to our thought or perception about the visible world, the first state Jagrat, looking to be real, everything looking to be real in the Jagrat state and complete for us. The Upanishad identifies Akara in Om with Jagratavastha, that is the wakeful state. The second letter Ukara in Om, being elevated above Akara, exists between Akara and Makara. It is comparable with the dreaming state, which is elevated above our wakeful state and exists between the wakeful and the deep sleep states. Then there is a comparison between Makara and the deep sleep state of consciousness. When we chant Om, Akara and Ukara merge in Makara. This is similar to all the impressions of wakeful and dream states merging in deep sleep. Just as you end the chant with Makara, we end all our experience in deep sleep. Now, the important injunction or ruling from the Upanishad is the following. It says there is a transcendental state, that is a fourth state of the Atman, which has been described in the seventh verse of the Upanishad as Nahanta Prajnam, Na Bahi Prajna, No Bhayata Prajna. That is neither inward current nor outward current consciousness nor the two together. In the same verse, the Upanishad continues to describe the fourth state as Adrushtam, Avyavaharyam, Agrahyam, Alakshanam, Achintyam, Avyapadesyam. The fourth state of Atman is invisible, ineffable, intangible, devoid of characteristics, that is nirguna, inconceivable, indefinable. Like this transcendent state of Atman, which is utterly quiet, peaceful, and blissful, the transcendent condition of Omkara, chanting beyond this syllable Makara, has no further syllables and is soundless, unutterable, blissful, and a quieting down of all relative manifestations. In naming this transcendent state, the only word the Upanishad uses is Amatra. The Atman, that is Supreme Atma, is Amatra, that is immeasurable. So is this Amatra condition of Omkara, which is also measureless in every way. Thus, Om, in its fourth or transcendent state and its wholeness, it is Atman itself and represents the divinity within oneself. Let us understand that all these comparisons are symbolic, and these comparisons are made by the Upanishad to help one in meditation so that one can bring Omkara in contrast with the states of the Atman. The continued recitation of Om fills one with peace, calmness, tranquility, and serenity. When we recite it with the understanding of its meaning, that Om is nothing but a representation of the Ishvara, it brings us closer to our true nature, our own pure self. Thus, he who knows this by deep meditation merges his self in the self. The merger of Om in the Atman is the merger of this creation in the Absolute. It is self-realization, that is God's realization. This is the goal of life. Mandukya Upanishad wonderfully has described the path or the way to attain this goal by repeatedly chanting Omkara and meditating on Paramatma. So friends, I tried in this short Vishesh Sukti to portray or describe Mandukya Upanishad and could give you only a few essential details on this exceptional and unique Upanishad. I wish to end this Vishesh Sukti with a small prayer on Omkaram. Avyayam Anantam Achintyam Omkarame Saranu Saranu Omkarame Saranu Saranu Omkarame Om Omkarame Paramatmaye Omkarame Paramatmaye Narayana Om Namo Narayana Om Namo Narayana Shankara Om Namo Shankara Om Namo Shankara Sharanu He Govinda Saranu He Madhava Murare Saranu Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Sharanu He Keshava Sharanu He Mukunda Narayana Sharanu Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Sharanu Sharanu Omkarame Sharanu Sharanu Omkarame Om Omkarame Paramatmaye Omkarame Paramatmaye Narayana Om Namo Narayana ఓం నమో నారాయణ శంకర. ఓం నమో శంకర. ఓం నమో శంకర. శరణు హే పరమేశ్వర. శరణు హే త్రిపురాంతక త్ర్యంబక. శరణు శివాయ. ఓం నమః శివాయ. ఓం నమః శివాయ. శరణు హే శంకర. శరణు హే చంద్రశేఖర. త్రియనయనయన. శరణు శివాయ. ఓం నమః శివాయ. ఓం నమః శివాయ. ఓం ఓంకారమే. ఓంకారమే శరణు. శరణు శరణు ఓంకారమే. శరణు శరణు ఓంకారమే. ఓం ఓంకారమే పరమాత్మయే. ఓంకారమే పరమాత్మయే నారాయణ. ఓం నమో నారాయణ. ఓం నమో నారాయణ శంకర. ఓం నమో శంకర. ఓం నమో శంకర. ఓం